Yeah, hello everyone. Greetings, friends, wherever you are. Welcome to International Women Ambassador and Young Leader Meetings 2020. With me, Okalawa, as a master of ceremonies who will accompany our speakers and moderators during this event. The theme of this event will discuss about female leadership in OISA. This event will take 2 hours from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. Jakarta time, which will be moderated by Mr. Reko Putrabar as OISA Innovation, Business and Partnership Development from PPI Turkey for the first session, and Mrs. Iza Alisa as OISA Media and Communication Center from PPI Qatar for the second session. This event aims to stimulate a sense of awareness, the significance of international competitiveness, extensive networking, and global collaboration among Indonesian people. The ultimate goal is to overcome the present day global crisis and seek for an opportunity to lead the world, and also promoting OISA young leaders to the world. Furthermore, have been present our great speakers for today. Please allow me to introduce them. First is Safira Nur'allya Ramadhanty as President of PPI Belgia. Second is Juliana Pandiangan as Chief of PPI Philippines. And the last one is Anissa Ridatul Khatima as Chief of PPI Nigeria. Before we begin this event, I would like to inform you that this event we are also raising funds for COVID-19, especially for our medical team who are forefront in fighting COVID-19. Thank you very much for all of you who have contributed to the donation. Immediately, I will pass the event to our moderator, Mr. Reko Putra Akbar and Miss Iza Alisa. This time is yours.
Good morning, good evening. My name is Reko Putra Akbar. I'm master student in Safira University. I will moderate our first session today with our speaker, Miss Safira Nur'allya Ramadhanty, President of PPI Belgia. Before that, I will read our event background before the speaker deliver their presentation. As stated by the UNDP, the future is and shall be women. Overseas Indonesian Student Association across 8 countries is reflecting the nation hope for female participation in leadership roles. While this number takes up only a small portion in the total number of men within the organization. It is a progress worth celebrating and analyzing to examine in what ways OISAA as an organization can encourage women's inclusion in leadership roles. In this discussion, speakers are expected to discuss their personal experience pursuing presidency for OISAA at the national level. In addition, they are invited to discuss the challenges that women inherently face in balancing academia and organization responsibilities. Lastly, speakers are asked to present their strategies for more female inclusion in OISAA at the international, national, and regional levels, and how it will benefit women in academia, open up opportunities for careers, academic support, and child care, specifically in the Indonesian society as a whole. There will be Q&A session and discussion with the speaker after the presentation. For those who have questions, please write your name and your country, region, followed by your question. We will choose the best question from the audiences for the speaker to answer. Without waiting any longer, we invite the first speaker, Ms. Safira Nur'allya Ramadhanty, President of PPI Belgium, to deliver his presentation. The stage is yours.
So thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you, the Overseas Indonesian Students Association Alliance, for inviting me to talk about women leadership today. And I'm kind of new to this thing, so bear with me, and I hope that what I'm going to share with you today could be useful. So may I have the PowerPoint, please?
Okay. Uh, Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself, Miss Safira,
Yeah.
before we can.
So, yeah, thank you. So I would like to introduce myself first because I don't think many of you know who I am. So my name is Safira Nur'allya Ramadhanty. You can call me Safira, Fira, or actually whatever you want. I'm a bachelor student of business engineering at the University of Antwerp in Belgium. And I'm also currently the president of Indonesian Student Association in Belgium, or what we call PPI Belgia, in which we have about 160 students. So that's probably it about the introduction. So
Okay.
maybe I can just skip to the next part if we're still waiting for the presentation. Yeah.
Okay. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay. Yeah, firstly, I want to actually introduce many of you to PPI Belgia. Like I said before, we have about 160 students, and that we are also divided into 6 cities, and that the cities are Antwerp, Brussels, Hasselt, and Leuven, Liège. We have also done many events in the past, such as annual gatherings, book discussions, sharing, and so on. But yeah, due to COVID-19, we have not done many physical events because we're not allowed to do it. But we have done many events online, such as webinars, podcasts, and also virtual games. Mm, May I go on?
Yes, you covered the presentation, and the PowerPoint will be followed.
Okay, so that is actually the short introduction of who we are, and yeah, the reason why we made social events, gatherings, is that we want to create a community in which students could actually come together and create a network of Indonesian students where they can help each other. So that's it. And for us, we have our vision and missions that we have achieved and still trying our best to achieve more. And that is the first one would be our vision. And our vision, if my PowerPoint is there, that is actually in Indonesian, so I need to translate it, but it's actually we want to create a community, one community where we have a strong bond between students, especially Indonesian students, and that we want to encourage creativity of that student, and then that we want to give inspirations to Indonesia. So that is our vision. And in order to do this, in order to realize our vision, we have 5 missions. And the first mission would be communication. And communication means that we want to create, we want to increase amount of communications in between students, especially between inside the organization itself. And we want to work together in order to, in order to make a organization in which we can increase efficiency. And also, the second one would be family. And family means that we want to create a strong bond between the students and that we want to make our community sort of feel like a family in Belgium. And the third one would be to collaborate, and collaborate meaning that we want to create events with many other Indonesian students in other countries, especially in Europe. For example, we have also done events with Indonesian students in Germany, also in Russia, and so on. And the fourth one would be creativity. So maybe it's in the next slide, please, for the fourth.
The fourth, please.
Yeah, the fourth one. Yes, so that's that one. And the fourth one would be, as I said before, creativity, in which we want to create a cultural event in Belgium to introduce our culture, Indonesian culture, and we want to increase and we want to encourage creativeness of Indonesian students. And last but not least is to contribute, and to contribute meaning that we want to actively participate in distributing informations about studying in Belgium and how students in Indonesia could actually study in Belgium. And as I said before, we have, well, a lot of things to do, and this is exactly not an easy task to realize, but we all need to work together in order to achieve these missions, right? So I do believe that, for example, a leader should have the ability to know where to put the right people in the right job, and that if we could do this, we could actually achieve something great. So into the next slide, please. Yes, yeah. So how about in Belgium? Do they actually support women in pursuing leadership positions? And as we know, on the matter of gender equality, Belgium has actually a highly developed legal arsenal. And moreover, the major advances made in a few decades in terms of gender equality cannot be denied. And consequently, we could think that, for example, yeah, gender equality has been achieved in our society, and that the inequalities that remain is actually just based on personal choices or personal views. But however, we should not underestimate this persistence, because in numerous areas, gender equality related to inequalities or stereotypes still exist. So they are often considered normal or go unnoticed. Inequalities between men and women remain in a number of areas. For example, in Belgium, we have in 2005, based on a comparison of average gross salaries of men and women receive 85% of what men receive. So, and that the education of children in households has generally fallen on women, and which it leads to that women could work less and could contribute less time in the workplace. So that in 2004, for example, 41.5% of women worked part-time compared to only 7% of men. And for the next one would be, there is a gender pay gap, which then translate into a pension gap between women and men at the end of their careers, and so on. So this is why on 12 January 2007, that the Belgian Parliament passed a law and aiming at implementing gender mainstreaming at the Belgian federal level. So what is gender mainstreaming exactly? Gender mainstreaming is actually a specific strategy whose ambition is to strengthen the equality of women and men in society by making sure that all the steps in the political process, for example, design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, that it could take the gender perspective into account. So gender perspective meaning the socio-economic differences that exist among men and women. And of course, the concrete application of this law requires a commitment from all federal political and administrative leaders. However, despite passing of laws that balance the presence of men and women on electoral lists, women are still underrepresented in legislative assemblies and are a small minority in executive bodies. So, in conclusion, even though that there is a law established to support women in pursuing higher positions in the hierarchy and also pursuing leadership positions, it does not necessarily indicate that there is a high percentage of women sitting on those positions itself. For the next slide, please. Yeah. So, so we talk about Belgium itself, but how about my university? Do they support women in pursuing higher careers, higher or leadership positions? And for me personally, I am particularly grateful to be a student in the University of Antwerp because the university itself respects and encourages diversity highly. So they have, for example, their own diversity policy. They have gender policy inside the university that actually allows women to take more responsibility in several organs, and that they also try to create a situation or a place where there is a gender balance. For example, so they have created a strategic action plan in which it's called the Sustainable Gender Policy for Academic Personnel, that translates the commitment of the University of Antwerp to promote gender diversity in the academic staff. And in addition, the university also provides training, which is called diversity training, for their staffs and personnel. For students like myself, for example, in my faculty, the university provides the opportunity for students to choose subjects between diversity, migration, and global justice, for example, in which it has, for me personally, it has a huge impact on how we view things. So it is actually a really eye-opener that helps us get rid of our biases and stereotypes about certain issues. So in conclusion, to close it all, there are laws and policies that are already implemented in order to encourage women to take the leadership positions. However, this does not indicate that there is a high percentage of women sitting on those positions. And in addition, the representation of women in academic decision making can be considered as a matter of inequality that needs to be tackled. Surprisingly, we also lack the insights of what actually happens. For example, when we implement gender quotas as a gender equality policy measures that sets certain limits to gender under or overrepresentation in decision-making bodies, for example, in academic organizations. So that is probably it for me. I hope that you could learn something out of my presentation. And I do personally believe that we can create a balance within the OISAA organizations. It is, of course, not an easy task because I personally think that women's lack of confidence usually hinder them from taking higher positions. But my question would be, why are women not able to have some confidence, the same confidence as men have? Because I noticed that women have the same capabilities as men, but they are just too afraid to lead. And this this feeling of being afraid, it starts actually young. So I do believe that by focusing on our values, that will protect us as our identity shield, and we could actually reflect on these values, that we women could actually stand tall and be leaders. And in order to do that, we also need to be brave. And by being brave, meaning you can obviously start small, take small actions to create something big in the future. And it is actually about the process, not the result at the end of the day. So that's for me. Thank you. And I look forward in seeing more female leaders in the OISAA. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Miss Safira Nur'allya
Thank
for the great presentation. I will express some of key points of the first speaker. The first is like in the Belgium, is the balancing between men and women. Even women are still underrepresented. So in the university, even they are training for diversity in all of the in the all of the classes, even between migration, integration, and diversity. And the key point, what I got from you, why women not confident? Women has capability like men, all right, but they just afraid to expressing themselves. That's what I got from you. Thank you very much for your presentation. And the time is up. Without waiting any longer, we will give the time for the next speaker, Miss Juliana Pandiangan, to deliver his presentation. The stage is yours. Miss Juliana, please open your mic. Yeah.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank for the committee of this event. Currently, I'm taking a master degree in accountancy in De La Salle University of Manila. My friends usually call me Julie, and I'm from North Sumatra. Today, we will discuss about women in leadership and share my experience as a woman and the president of OISAA in the Philippines at the same time. Please show my presentation, Reiko.
Uh, if you want.
Okay. Next slide. Let's talk about my vision and mission in pursuing the past presidency. I know it sounds simple. My vision is focusing focusing on personal development to be a place for Indonesian college students in Philippines and alumnus for Philippines college by actively participate the development of Indonesia with honesty and integrity and causing happiness in their life. However, by analyzing the condition of OISA in the Philippines that time, with around 300 students, the organization was in the sleeping mode. As a leader, I was recognizing the problem, and until today, we are still trying to encourage and engage the Indonesian students in every event that we made. Integrity with happiness is a bit tricky since we need balancing the time and our mind, and integrity might cause ambitious if the portion is not balanced. Next is my mission. My mission uh, that we have to accomplish in 1 year. There are 4 missions. In those missions, the first is gather the college students to be active in PPIF. The second is facilitate the member to develop soft skill and hard skill. And the third is facilitate alumnus from Philippines College looking for jobs in Indonesia with their developed soft skill and knowledge. And the last is invite the researchers to contribute the development in Indonesia in each aspect. And in those missions, I expect the youth Indonesian in the Philippines to give their time and share their knowledge to others. Every Indonesian youth needs to understand that OISA is a mediator organization to share knowledge among Indonesian students everywhere. By doing that, you are contributed enhancing the quality youth skills. Actually, my background is accounting, and I didn't get any leadership practice in formal education. And honestly, I get a hard time to harmonizing between my education life and my organization life. In economy, there is always trade-off in doing something, and I believe the trade-off things is worth it for my future in the academic organization like OISA. Next slide, please. Uh, Next slide, Rico. In the Philippines, the people and the cultures are very supportive. Sorry, for the graph. Can you show me the graph? The graph between Indonesian and Philippines before? Yes. Up. Yes. Thank you. In the Philippines, like you saw in the graphic, based on the World Bank database in 2019, women participation as leader in parliament in Indonesia and Philippines are respectively 17.39% and 27.96%. And this amount is half in Indonesia is half than in Philippines. So the people and the cultures are very supportive in Philippines for women to have the same opportunity as men has. The interesting culture in Philippines is open-minded culture. As long as you as woman or man have a capability in any position or jobs, then you deserve it. As a woman, we must know our insecurity to be able to compete with other leaders. Next. So we need to know why Philippines give the bigger opportunity for women as leader than Indonesian did. The first is uh, Philippines was colonized by Spanish and American. In the history of Philippines, Filipino women achieved liberty and educational freedom as early as 16th century, as seen in the success of the women of Malolos. Speaking of women in Malolos, in the second half of the 19th century, a group of young women in Malolos in Bulacan participated in a peaceful movement for educational reforms. This remarkable event showed the aptitude of these women for political and social reforms. Additionally, the right to vote, which was enacted in 1933 and implemented in 1937. And the second is the Philippine Commission on Women is primary policy-making and coordinating body of the women and gender equality concerns under the office of the president. I believe in Indonesia has the same constitution called the Ministry of Women's Empowerment. And the third is this is the facts that in the Global Gender Gap Index 2017, the Philippines ranked 10th out of 145 countries for gender equality. So, therefore, we need to learn from Philippines how to encourage and increasing women's participation in leadership. And I would like to share to you the crucial capabilities that every leader must have instead of man or woman. Next slide, please. I want to talk about what is the difference between men and women in leadership way. I want to encourage every woman in Indonesia to have these capabilities. Afterwards, we can compete with men in leadership. The capability approach advocates that a study on women's role be focused on capabilities when making normative evaluations. That is what ought to and should be done in order to achieve well-being. Based on the views of the researcher of Nussbaum, Robbins, and Alkire, these capabilities include life and physical health, being physically healthy and enjoying a life of normal length, mental well-being, being mentally healthy, social relations, being part of social networks, as well as giving and receiving social support. Political empowerment, being able to participate in political decision-making. Education and knowledge, being educated as well as using and producing knowledge. Mobility, being able to move about. Leisure activities, being able to engage in leisure activities. For me, this is the second most important in my life. In every 3 months, I want to share you that I usually take vacation, just an avoidable escape like beach or hiking, just to just to refresh my mind. And respect, being respected and treated with dignity. And the last is economic empowerment. Economic empowerment are explained in three aspects: domestic work and non-market care, which is being able to raise children and to take care of others. And this aspect is the special ability of women. And the second is paid work and other projects, being able to work in the labor market or to undertake projects including artistic one. And the last is shelter and environment, having a shelter in a safe and pleasant environment. I conclude that government has an important role to support women equality in leadership. Government must make a policy rights to equal treatment, property, education, work, and socio-political rights for women. Next slide, please. This the last slide is the SGD goals. Did you know one of the Sustainable Development Goals? The SDGs, also known as the Global Goals, we are adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015 as a universe call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Indonesia is part of SDG. One of the determined and detailed goals, number 5, is gender equality, is achieving gender equality and empower all women and girls. Specifically, ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision making in political, economic, and public life. For the closing statement, I would like to cite the Eleanor Roosevelt said that do the thing you think you cannot do. So don't let people define your success. Just do it if your surrounding need a leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Miss Juliana Pandiangan for the presentation. And now I will express some key points for the second presentation. For the first, in the Philippines, one of the most ranked countries for the gender equality. Sorry. So take more vacation. That's right, Mr. Julian. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Okay, that's right. And then there are opportunities for the all women to be same levels of decision making in political, economic, and public life. Okay, and the time is up. Without waiting any longer, next I will give the time for my friend Miss Iza to guide our next great speaker. Time is yours.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so
I
should I start it?
yes, you can start it.
Okay, thank you very much, Rico. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here to share to you all about women in leadership. So, my name is Anissa Ridatul Khatima, President of PPI Hungary. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you very much for all committees of Ambassadors and Young Leaders Week event as a part of Overseas Indonesian Students Associations Alliance who have invited me to talk about this interesting topic. Yes, women in leaderships or women as leader is kind of hot issue, especially in this era, isn't it? Regarding this, so many pros and cons. Many people contend that women are so emotional and couldn't manage organizations well. Or, on the other hand, many people also argue that women could bring better peace and happiness to the negotiations and advocacy by their feelings and sympathy. Well, the things that I like to highlight through these presentations is why I eventually choose these positions and my experience in this presidency as president of PP Hungary. And I like all of us to see how many benefits actually can be obtained by women's participations in organizations or institutions. And of course, my opinion relate to the strategy to the further females' involvement in the OISAA, or we call it PPE, to give good influence and synergy as well as complement the male. Well, talking about my experience in PPE. Please, next slide. Initially, I don't even dream to be president of PPE Hungary. Apparently, I want to focus on my study for academic to be academicians, and I want to stick on that goal. Since I thought in that time that living in another country such Hungary as minority with this hijab and this posture as Asian women is indeed challenging, especially when I check the news before coming to Hungary. I found like Islamophobia issue in this country. Thus, apparently, my main goal is how I could avoid this issue. I'm afraid to do many activities and to be bold or vocal for the first time. And I just try to spend my time to focus on my study, to dig any knowledge, create my academic papers as output. However, by the time when there was open recruitment for this presidency, I see many of my friends tend to not choose these positions, probably because there's tight schedules such as practicum at the laboratory or part-time job or other activities such traveling. I realized that we don't have any many candidate options since our batch only around 30 students and some possibilities candidates from previous year, and in total students in Hungary from Indonesia are around 100. Some of my friends throwing over to me to be part of the candidacy, but I see it just like a joke and I don't want to take it serious for the first time. Until I eventually realized that, well, actually I love to join organizations since junior high school. Actually, there are so many girls' participations in organizations even since elementary school. And in high school, I also devoted myself to be president of some clubs. I also tried to give contributions to the society in universities level as lead coordinator of community in Malang to hold Malang Smart Difabel event by assisting disabled person to achieve higher educations in educations like in university level, and how women and disabled also connected to erase the stereotype of women and second disabled at that time. Then importantly, I'm passionate to do a diplomacy since my background as international relations student, and currently I'm focused on economic diplomacy. I did a little throwback, a little bit.
realizing that since elementary school, um, I studied in a village in Bengkulu province. I found any lack of access of education, access of competitions, if or moreover go abroad. So then when I studied in Brawijaya University in Malang, I thought that I should maximize any opportunities where people in Java Island can easily access that. That principle still being held when I eventually awarded a stipendium Hungaricum, or when I awarded a scholarship from Hungarian government, cooperating with Indonesia and more than 70 countries around the world. I finally come up with three main missions to be president of Pepe Hungary. Well, for the first two reasons, probably it sounds diplomatic, but it means a lot for me. Like, firstly, indeed, I want to have the same right. I like to give big contributions, as many as I can, as same as like male students or Indonesian young citizens in overseas. Such Kartini who bring life for education's opportunity. And now I like to try to contribute to the next level, how we can also help women or all students in Indonesia to achieve their higher educations in international level. So secondly, I like to have some opportunity in networking and abilities based on our own expertise and also maximizing it for Indonesia and give contribution as a feedback to our host country which grant us scholarship, Hungary, and international as global citizens. So thirdly, I call it hijab diplomacy. I still remember when one of Indonesian student in Hungary said that, Nisa, you should be a president of in your organizations like PPI Hungary. It would be great to see Indonesian women with hijab can be a leader in that country where it consists of many non-Muslim people. Yes, Muslim as a minority in Hungary, like around 8% until 11% only. So yeah, that the percentage is so minor. Then I told at that time like how I can do what I call then hijab diplomacy. By this presidency, I like to showcase how like women and a hijaber is actually not a terrorist, how hijaber can be a leader and lead people to do a good deeds, how hijabers can collaborate and cooperate with local people in local communities in Hungary, how I like to show women represent like Indonesia, which consists of Muslim country. We try to be collaborate with peoples in Hungary or in other countries around the world. So actually, Indonesian women can be a leader and can spread a peace and love to live in diversity. Meanwhile, it is interesting to note that the pioneer of Pepe Hungary is actually female. So the initiator of the PP Hungary at the first time is female. Her name is Karina Ambarsatwika, an exchange student of the Calvinist University of Budapest. And so she stood at the first president of PP Hungary in 2015. So from that point also inspire me how to continue her initiations to bring PP Hungary to be better and better. And yes, and now I like to inform like Pepe Hungary have two divisions where these two divisions where the two divisions also have female leader in external divisions and entrepreneurship divisions. And for all totals of the staffs in Pepe Hungary, 27 members and 14 are females. So I'm so blessed that we can like make a balance in these organizations to be complement each other between male and females. And please, next slide. Now I'd like to talk about women's leaderships in Hungary. So how about Hungary responds about women's participations? As a democratic country since achieved its independence from communists under Soviet Union in the Cold War, As far as I analyze, Hungary also support the women participations, especially in the top level. According to the UN Women, Hungary commits to actively work to combat discriminations against women in all forms, improve gender equality, and promote the advancement of women through three priorities areas of concern, like preventing and eliminating domestic violence, advancing gender equality, and ending sexual violence and conflict. And moreover, Article 15 of the Hungarian Constitution states that women and men still have equal rights and stress that by means spirit measures Hungary shall promote the achievement of equality of opportunity and social inclusions. So I think it's also in line with our visions to make the women also have a good same opportunity. So it's same like Indonesia, I think. And as a matter of fact, we can see based on the OISAA.hu reports from Hungary that on an average, 31% of the companies in Hungary have women leaders and have women with authority to sign in the name of the company. And for the famous company in Hungary, we call it SPAR, or like in Indonesia, it's just like, sorry to say a brand like Alfamart. So this quite popular supermarket in Hungary, and the chief or the head of that supermarket is Gabriela Heitzeler, and also the Secretary of State of EU Relations from Hungary, also women. She is Judith Varga. However, still only 99% of Hungarian representations in the parliaments, and it's also become issue actually the low of the percentage of women in the politics in Hungary. But we can see from my previous explanations that women also represents their participations until in the top level, even in this country. Well, unfortunately, I still get information from most of the international women students here that they still meet a little bit difficulty in applying job when the Hungarian know they wear hijab. Well, it would be my concerns how to make a small step by step to show how hijab could actually not become a boundary for women to participate in development. I also believe that Hungary will welcome it because some of the companies also receive that. It's just a matter of stereotype, I think. So I have a big dream to erase the stereotype with small steps. I hope ION Indonesian's female students can give good contributions for Hungary, since the Hungarian government has already granted us a scholarship and now opened more quotas. So the previous one, only 10 students can pursue their master's degree in Hungary. Now the government opened it in doubled number. 100 students can study in Hungary, even from bachelor's degree until PhD. So yes, for me, women should be confident, lean, and raise their hands higher by leadership and by the leadership positions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anissa. I'd just like to say a reminder that for those of you who have a question, you can say it in the comment below and just mention your name and the region you're from. And without further ado, we'd like to move to the second session, which is the discussion session. And so thank you so much for your presentation, because I think we've all learned a lot from it. And okay, so I have a couple of questions that are prepared for all of our speakers today. And yeah, so the first one, and before I jump into this discussion sessions, I'd like to highlight some of the important topics that you talked about. So firstly, you talked about how many things can be obtained when women are in leadership positions. And then the second one is your story on how you joined OISAA and how you use this as a platform to enhance or empower yourself as like a minority and as a woman. And the third one, also your hijab diplomacy, which I think is a really, really cool concept. And so thank you so much for that. And now we move on to discussion session. So the first question I'd like to ask all of our speakers
Okay.
today is, do you believe it matters when men hold the majority of leadership positions in academic organizations such as OISAA? So that's open to anyone on the floor. Anyone would like to answer first? I think we can only hear Anissa. I'm not sure if we can hear the rest right now. So perhaps, Anissa, do you think you have any thoughts on this question?
Okay, so who wants to answer first, or Juliana?
Anyone who wants to answer first? You can just unmute yourself. Juliana, I'm so sorry. I think but you're still on mute.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So who'd like to answer this question first?
For me, it depends on the quality of human resource during the organization exists. Uh, I emphasize that capability fairly is a guidance for women and men to be in academic organization. Yes, that's for me.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer. Does anyone would like to add anything or
May
piggyback on
I?
that point? Sure.
So, okay. So, I do personally believe that it does not necessarily matter that men or women take a whole majority of these positions, but I believe that we should choose the right person with leadership skills and also the right ability to guide others in order to achieve great things. So, it is about who is the most capable one, and it does not necessarily matter which gender you have. So, that's probably it for me.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
answer. Um, Anissa, would you like to add anything into the
Well, thank you. So I think also it will be great if women can have also fill the positions of the majority leadership positions. It will be great because recognizing for all countries there are so many female students. So I think they also have mature enough when they try to study overseas. They also face any difficulties, challenging conditions, adapting in the new circumstance. I do believe that women have that kind of capability to be a leader, especially in OISA itself. But yes, back then it depends on the. It doesn't matter actually how many women can participate, but it's a matter of the women's quality. So it's not the quantity. How the women can truly be ready, and how then they could be truly try to hand in hand with the male leaders in another countries to make our organizations better. So yeah, so hopefully women's leader can be good model, so it can inspire a lot. I think when we can put many women, so women students in Indonesia will like to could be happy or try to love to study overseas and try to do many positive and active actions.
Thank you so much for your answer. Yeah, I think that's a really important point. It's just to make sure that, like, as an overall person, like, they would be a great leader. And I think the next question is kind of related to what Safira talked about earlier. And it is, what potential personal or professional barriers do you feel like might be impacting women from reaching the highest levels of leadership in student organizations? So, who would like to answer that first?
May I?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. So I do, yeah, like I said before, for me, the personal barriers that women might have is that the lack of confidence that women have. So I do believe that in this era that we live in, that women tends to be scared of the things that they haven't tried. It's just because that's how we are taught. So
it's not like it's easy to break those ideas, those stereotypes, and those biases that are still exist in our life. But for example, by being aware of it, we actually realize that it is not that scary to go on public speaking or like present ourselves in front of others. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. I think as women we kind of like grew up into thinking that like we should like not belittle ourselves, but like we have to like we have to be the more timid one and things like that. And so that's completely valid, and completely agree with that. Does anyone would like to add to this point, or like have anything?
Yes. Can I? Okay, so yeah, absolutely, I agree with what Safira said, and of course, like in general, we still many people still like say women are weak, emotional, liable, cannot manage their emotions when they should put certain decisions, make it a rush or something like that. But please, we need to highlight another positive side of the women and how actually women can manage that kind of the likeness. I do believe all women's we can see like our ministers in Indonesia also there are some also women's leader, so we can see that as a example. And yeah, I think there should be more awareness and more like talks about gender equality, especially like this platform. I do really appreciate this because this can be a voice, can sound to all peoples around the world that this that happened actually for that from of women's, and we need to yes raise this awareness. And one more, lastly, recognizing OISAA is actually academic organizations. And we know that because this academic, we need to focus on about how to put our critical thinking, how to put like our academic background to do a certain contributions. So I think women and men have their same intelligence. They have same intelligence as human being, and they can contribute based on their own expertise.
Thank you so much. I think that's completely true. And we can definitely benefit from our majors and into the organization. Would you like to add
May I
anything,
add?
Juliana?
May I add
Yeah, of course.
one point of view?
Mhm.
From me, emotional barrier due to hormonal on how women think is different from men. But this can be a positive trait as long as women can manage feeling and logic in facing and solving problems. Because as we know, women usually put problems in one box. Therefore, the way we think is more complicated than men. But women need to put the problem in different small boxes, depends on their urgency and source.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Um, yeah. And so I think we'll move on to the next question because everything that you guys have put in, like it's already amazing. And so the next question is, do you believe that it is important that future OISAS coordinators and division leaders conduct a close recruitment to balance the number of male to female membership within organizations? And if so, how could this be beneficial to women specifically and the organization as a whole? Or how could it be detrimental? It's a long question.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you think it's better to if we measure the leadership position roles in terms of ratios rather than like the person itself?
May I?
Go ahead.
Do you think that we should create a balance between men and women within the organization? But I don't think, for example, a close recruitment where we state that, yeah, this is the quotas for men, this is the quotas for women. I don't think that would be a good idea because, yeah, what our organization stands for is actually that we want to create something diverse, because we are, yeah, we know Indonesian, we are really diverse, and that we want to create inclusion where all the students are included, and that we want to create equality. So by doing close recruitments, I don't think that it is a solution in which yeah, men and women will feel included in that organizations. And I don't think by being stated, okay, this is the quota for men and women, that then we could um, we could filter the people who could actually have the right skills and the right capabilities to lead. That would be for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Does anyone would like to add anything?
May I?
Yeah.
Uh, I prefer open recruitment than in closed recruitment. Due to willingness to join organization is a key to keep someone in non-profit organization, because as we know, a non-profit organization like OISAA is a bit hard to keep person to be active in the organization. And for the woman outside there, woman empowerment is like a virus, starting from one woman, and the other woman will spread it to others. So you will be recognized if you are a capable woman in your field. So moreover, woman leader must encourage the capable woman to in their circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I completely agree with you, actually, Juliana, on that
Okay,
point.
can I also?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Isa. So I also, in my perspective, close recruitment is not a good option. So I think students who study overseas are smart enough to see who are actually capable, and I think it's only can degrade women's positions with the close recruitment, meaning that, well, what a pity of women's days. They need more positions, so we need to put more yes place with the close recruitment and so on and so forth. So I think if the women capable enough and even can be more capable compared to the male, I don't say that women can be better or lower with the male, but in some case, I think maybe in some conditions, even women can be better. So it should be selected as a president, of course, or should be a coordinator if in the case like that. So please don't see the lack of women's participations, and then we need to reevaluate our perspective and to be fair to choose women if she is capable enough.
Mhm, mhm. So I think all of us
Mhm.
would generally agree that we shouldn't just hire women in a leadership position just because of their gender, because but instead look for people that are capable for the position itself based on their um, based on their capabilities. And I think I find it really interesting as well because earlier in the earlier question we talked about um, how women are like, sometimes we're timid, so perhaps it's not like a way for us to empower ourselves. It's not for us to like just like just push ourselves because of the ratio, but it's more to like um, integrating that skills before they actually become the person that the leader that they should be. So I think that's a really really cool point that you guys brought up. And actually our time is up for the discussion session. And without waiting any longer, I'd like to give the floor back to Reco to guide all the speakers into our next and last session. Thank you so much, all. Reco, are you here?
Okay. Thank you very much for Miss Iza for the time. Okay, next we continue to the next session that the third event, the fourth event Q&A session for those who had written the question. I will go ahead, sorry, and read them. For the first question, that from Zafira Akila from Japan. I wonder whether the Indonesian community in Belgium have accustomed to this gender policy in the country, hence making it equally easy for both male or female to run for OISAA presidents. Okay, uh, for Miss Safira, can you answer?
Yes, thank you. I do believe that it has a partial impact on our way of thinking by being here in a foreign country, that we could actually open our minds to new cultures, to new way of life, and that is actually an eye opener in which we have um, now more capabilities to think outside our box. And indeed, I think it has an influence on our way of thinking, and that it could actually create more opportunities in which women are more confident enough to take parts in the presidency. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the great answer from Miss Safira. Okay, next question. From the Muhammad Ihsan Kiat from Moscow, Russia. How do you understand woman as mother of civilization, and what kind of civilization you guys are gonna build towards Indonesian golden era? Okay, anyone? Maybe Miss Juliana.
Uh, yes. For me, mother of civilization. Every woman will have a chance to be mother. And as a mother, especially in Indonesia, we know that a mother is the person who will handle the house uh, in every family, and that's why as a good mother we have to have a good education too, so we can teach and discipline our children later to be a good youth and generation of Indonesian, to be Indonesian golden era. That's why I want to encourage any woman to get equality in education everywhere, that uh, you should get a higher education, so therefore the next generation of Indonesia will be educated too. Thank you.
Maybe any can yes. Any additional, Miss Safira? Maybe.
For me, actually, not really, but I actually need to go now. So may I kind of like say one last words? So I hope that today's discussions would be a valuable lessons for all of us, and I do hope that we'll see more women in those higher positions. And in order to do that, we actually need to encourage more women to participate more actively in our OISAA. So thank you, and I look forward in seeing more female leaders in our Overseas Indonesian Students Association Alliance. Thank you very much for this opportunity today. Bye.
Thank you very much for Miss Safira. And any additional from Miss Anissa for the
Well,
same
thank
question?
you.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so of course, women can be said as the mothers of civilizations, and then as the mothers of civilizations, the future generations, bright future generation is on the mother's hand, or on the women's hand. So it's really influenced a lot. it's actually also happened to me. Like before, in every activities, like either in every competitions, organizations, or activities, I always ask and consult to my mom, and mom is the first person that can be a really our supporting system to really can support us, care us, and even they pray to us. Like in my belief as in Islam also, like the mother's prayers, uh, it's your ultimate like a reality can be achieved. So we need to really care to our mom and by now, so please be a good mother for the next future. And also hopefully we can, as the young women, we can educate better quality of the next leader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, that's from Japan. Sam, Miss Zafira Akila, do you believe it easier to be president or a leader overseas? How do the challenges to be a leader differ in Indonesia and overseas? Maybe Miss Juliana or Miss Anissa?
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
Miss.
could you repeat the question?
Uh-huh.
Sorry. Mhm.
Uh, do you believe it easier to be a president or a leader overseas? How do the challenge to be a leader differ in Indonesia and overseas?
Well, can I answer first?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the chance. So I think that it's quite challenging, but because like we live in different circumstances, we need to adapt in new situations. Even like when we are from in one region to another regions, like in Sumatra and to Java, it's also face a new challenging, like how to adapt with the cultures, local people, local cultures, and so on and so forth. Of course, it's quite challenging, like to be in Hungary as minority, like maybe I've told before, how with my hijabers and so on and so forth. And another one, like the cultures quite different, quite contrast, like between the Asians and Europeans or Western countries. Like when in the class or in every activity, my friends love to, of course, I love party as well, but yeah, you can see like I couldn't drink or something, so it's also quite challenging to really don't say it. I don't want to say it's not good, but it's just not my habit or something like that. So many challenges from the like culture shock, of course, and then the education system also quite different, and we need instead of leading organization, we also need manage our academics since we also students. So then we also need to still adapt with the education system in our home country. And yeah, it's challenging, especially when, and another one, like maybe the difference is when the women's and want to make certain collaborations in local in the local country. And with this also back again with this hijab in my problem. So we also I would like to also try to ensure to make sure that to influence them that we are really okay, and Indonesians associations also can give good contributions to them. So yes, we can, hopefully we can collaborate to them more and more without any stereotype like Asians or so on and so forth, especially like in this pandemic.
Okay, maybe any additional from Miss Juliana? Please on your mic, please.
In Philippines, it's more open-minded than others Asian country because they are colonized by Spanish and American. So it's my like a culture shock too for me because in here They like to have a party or drink alcohol just for a chat with friends like that. But uh, I experienced too in Philippines there was more change in overseas than Indonesia to be a leader, because in Indonesia the culture, especially in Sumatra, it's like patriarchalism, interfere women to be a leader.
Okay, thank you very much from you, Miss Juliana. And the next question, it's from India. It is true that women issue is a hot issue, but mostly it's still among women only. Less number of men pay attention about this, and mostly it's still in discussion. How do you think we can bring the issue to the surface and take action in reality? Miss Juliana, maybe?
Yes. For me to fix something, you have to be in that system. So if you feel that there is something wrong in the system, you have to uh, to be active in that system and fix it. So as a woman, again, I encourage you have to be the one who can bring the issue to the surface and take action in reality.
Okay, thank you, Miss Juliana. Maybe any additional from Miss Anissa?
Okay, thank you. Maybe the things that I like to highlight is how the male have less awareness with these issues as the questions. So I think is I believe that actually it's it's not easy if only say by saying like this without action. So what's the fact? The people want to see the yes the rigid action. So of course by approaching the male, or I mean how to collaborate to them, cooperate to them, even when we as a president where also our member also consists of male, we can be try to be a good role model, like we can manage them well, we can give them a good actions, we can direct them well, and yes through this position we can like try to one by one, step by step, erase the stereotype first. Then, when they really appreciate our, if it at the end they are amazed, or yes, I couldn't say that all of our action can be appreciated, but of course, if we do a good things, I hope eventually they will realize it and they will support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the great answer. And now we go to the next session, the closing statement and conclusion. Please, for the each speaker to deliver their closing statement. From Miss Juliana.
Uh, for me, as a woman in Indonesia out there, don't let people define your success. Just do it if your surrounding needs a leader. Thank you.
Next, Miss Anissa.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to highlight the important future OISAA leaders or divisions coordinator. So I do really hope that by women's participations, especially in OISAA itself, we can spread the reality that how women actually can spread independence, courageous, and thoughtness. And we like to showcase women can bring like family-oriented perspective, make it more a strong bond in these organizations with their careness and their yes something like that. And I hope that if so many participations of women, at least we, of course, we can promote these contributions of Indonesian women's figure in the world. And yes, in the end, it will affect to make a more inclusive and effective society.
Okay, thank you very much from Miss Anissa. And the conclusion will be delivered by my colleague, Miss Iza Alisa.
Thank you so much, Marco. And thank you so much for all the speakers and viewers who are willing to attend from the beginning to the end of the event. A high appreciation for all the organization team and committee, our supporting team, and also our media partners. Before I close the event, I'd like to inform everyone one last time we're also raising funds for COVID 19, especially for our medical team who are on the forefront in fighting COVID 19. So if you'd like to donate, please refer to the bank account um, number or the scan the QR code as shown below on the screen. So thank you so much for all of you who have contributed to the donation, and don't forget that we will have other events waiting for you. And that is all. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you at our event next time.
Okay, thank you very much for from Miss Iza Alisa. And the next is closing. Thank you for the excellent and great closing statement and conclusion from my college from the speaker. Unfortunately, our time is off. We return to the event to the master ceremony. We will close our great agenda today.
Okay, thank you very much for all the speakers and moderators and viewers who are willing to attend from the beginning to the end of this event. Before I close this event, I will inform you for the last time. We are also raising funds for COVID-19, especially for medical team who are at the forefront of fighting COVID-19. Thank you very much for all of you that contributed to the donation. See you at the next event. Indonesia bisa.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everyone for the great opportunity. Okay, thank you.